Okay, welcome back. Let's go ahead and set up some of our own logic in WonderLogix. So I'm going to go ahead and close this really nice program that we already have opened up in front of us. And then let's create one of my own really junky projects. And we'll just call this tank control. Something really simple and a very familiar scenario to us by this point. So here we go. We've got a system that proposes to assumably control the level of a tank. Well, one thing we can start with is, what about if we had some I/O? So I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to add field. And field isn't like in programming when you talk about a form field, something that the operator has to fill out. This is talking about like what's going on in the field, outside of the PLC, outside of the machine. So we have, that's where all of our I/O lives, right? So we've got inputs coming in from the field on the left, and then we have outputs going out to the field on the right. So what kind of things on a level control system would we have coming in as inputs? Well, for one thing, we might have an LL_SW, which would be our low level switch. And we could go ahead and set up the rest of our switches just as easily. So we've got a low, then we're going to have a high switch, naturally. And last but not least, we don't want to overfill our tank. So let's go ahead and have a high switch coming in. All right, and what do we have going out? Well, presumably, let's keep it simple, and let's say we've got a pump and a valve going out. So I'll just call this first one a pump, and I'll call this second one a valve. And just like that, I've already got my I/O defined. Now, I can work with it later, and I'm going to, give it some logic and things, but for now, I've already got my I/O in front of me, and I can start working on it. So let's come in here, and now I can create some new components, or basically operations or functional blocks within this system. So for this one, maybe I want to call this level control. And that should be fine. And then I'm going to create another one, and let's go ahead and call this one alarms. Perfect. So now we've got two functional areas that we're going to be using inside of our system to deal with these inputs on the left and also to manage these outputs on the right. Now, aside from I/O coming in from the field, we might actually have an HMI on this system as well, and there might be things coming into our system which do not come from the field. For instance, we might have an alarm reset. So I'll go ahead and define alarm_reset_PB. And there we go. So now we've actually got something coming into our system that's not coming in from, I/O. So now we can actually start to set some things up. So let's come over here to level control. And what are we going to do with level control? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at two of our values, because whenever we're doing level control, we don't care about low lows and high highs. What we care about is the low and the high. That's where we want to be looking to stay between whenever we're controlling level. So let's come in here and we'll get something like low, and then we'll also add one and we'll call it high. Perfect. Now, what is my low? Well, I'm going to right click on that and come into the logic editor. So let's come over here to our I/O line, and we could also set this up as some kind of analog, but we're going to set this up as a digital right now. And when we get this low switch in, what are we going to do? Well, this is when we want to set. And what are we going to set? We're going to set our level control from the moment just once when. Let's go ahead and say just once when, and then we'll expand out to get some more options. So we're going to set low of the level control function area when, and we're still going to look at an I/O switch here, so now we're going to actually pick which input we're responding to. So let's respond to the low switch, and we want to know when it's on, so we're going to assume that everything is off whenever the level is between low and high. So if we go down, we're going to start closing switches. If we go up, we're going to start closing switches. So we're going to go ahead and say when it's on, and there we go. So once we get down to the level switch coming on, we're going to go ahead and send a signal into our level control and set this low property. Done. And just like that, I've got one of my values set for that level control. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same for the high. So the high, same thing. We're going to set the high value, and that's going to happen just once when. Let's expand out, and now we want to look at the high switch and see when it's on. We can take that and we've got it. So I can close out of this little properties pane down here, and now I've got those both coming in. So let me add something here, and I'll go ahead and call this pump underscore out. Or actually, I won't even use an underscore. I'll just call this pump out. And we'll go ahead and create that. Now let's go ahead and work a little more closely with the level control. So I'm going to double click on that and bring this up. Now this is what we're working with. All of these panels on the right don't pertain to our system anymore. Now these are what pertain to our level control. So let's go ahead and create a property, and we'll call this running. And now we can do some programming with this running. So let's come down here to level control, and we're going to say that level control sets running from the moment, and now we need to define that moment, and that's going to be when level control receives the low. Alright, got it. And we'll go ahead and hit accept on that, and let's create another one. Now we need to know when this property is going to clear. It's going to clear from the moment that level control receives the high signal. And we can go ahead and check that, check again, and in case there's a conflict, what do we want to do? Well, then in that case, let's go ahead and clear the pump, because if there's some confusion down the road, we don't want to overfill our tank. So let's go ahead and check that off. Alright, so now we have this running property here. Let's go back to our output, and let's figure out when we want that to run. So our pump out, is this going to be analog or digital? We're going to take digital on this. We're going to say that level control reports pump out only while, and now we're going to say when running of level control is on. So now our running property is going to be governing our pump output. And we can go ahead and hit OK on that. So now we've actually got something happening in here. Let's zoom back out and go up to our pump. So we know that whenever level control is sending the pump out, that's when we want the pump to be running. So why don't I just come up here, and we'll say that tank control is pump, and that's going to be only while, and only while what? We're going to look at our level control, and we're going to say that it reports pump out. Hit OK, and hit OK again. So just like that, we've got our low and our high controlling our pump by means of this level control block right here. And likewise, we can go ahead and set up our alarms. We can pull in an alarm reset, and you can see how this machine kind of goes together. So that's really what I wanted to walk you through a little bit. So keep an eye on this technology. This is going to evolve probably pretty quickly within the first couple of years. It's going to change, as most new products do. but the essence of programming in here is not going to change very much from what you see. And it doesn't take a controls engineer or an expert programmer to come in here and start laying down some logic. I mean, it's really very simple. I only just got my hands on this product yesterday. So already, just after tinkering with this for about, a couple of minutes, I can already lay down logic and I can already create a system. I can get in here and, create machine states now. I can tell it, well, okay, now you're in standby mode, now you're in operation, and I can change how all of this actually functions. So once you get to the point that this is, fully market ready and you can, export this out to a Siemens PLC or an Allen Bradley PLC, I hope you can see at this point that this is going to be a really, really, really amazing tool to have in your toolbox. So grab a hold of this once it's out and once it's on the WonderLogix page. Check it out and play with this and see what all it can do, because this is going to alleviate a lot of headaches for programmers. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next lecture.